This conference will now be recorded.
All right. I think everybody's here to come, so we'll call the meeting to order. First thing is the pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so first thing on the agenda is the public hearing on the local laws for cannabis. We split these into two local laws. One is about the point of sale, and then the other local law is about the on-site consumption or lounge. So we'll do the public hearing on the point of sale to start with.
I'd like to say something. This is Laura Young. I live at 105 Chestnut Street. As per the first law, you're looking at the point of sale. I don't drink, nor do I smoke pot, and it doesn't matter because it's legal in New York now. We are a village where 50% of the buildings are not a tax base. This is commerce. This is a smart financial decision to allow point of sale. We are dying here as taxpayers with huge FEMA rates, with the taxes that we pay. Why would this village give up tax revenue on a legal commodity? It is legal in New York, whether you like it or not. People will buy elsewhere in the county. They will get the money and we won't. Why would we deny a tax revenue that's perfectly legal? I went back and looked through the Tioga County Courier morgue today. That's our paper of record. And I was looking specifically for police blotters throughout the last 10 years. And I wasn't surprised to find again and again people picked up for marijuana usage or carrying it. Now it's legal. It is legal. And clearly, there are people using smoking frequently, quite often, consuming marijuana in the village. Why would we pass up this financial gain? I'm entirely for point of sale. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Laura. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Eric Carbone. I live on 204 Front Street, Owego. And yeah, I think it's a huge mistake to opt out. It's a dying town. The restaurants can't even stay open for more than 3-4 days a week. The reality of it is if you opt out, you're going to be on the wrong side of history. Everybody is going to either go to Ithaca or Binghamton to the dispensaries. When you have a gentleman like this guy right here running Owego Hemp, you have your essential cannabis. The stores are already here. They're going to bring the same people. The average dispensary across the country brings in a revenue of $3 million a year. At 4%, that is $120,000 going directly to the town of Owego. The village of Owego, I apologize. You have $120,000 to give to the town? No, guess what? Cannabis is here and cannabis can grow. We already know the people who are going to be coming to these dispensaries. They're not bad players. Nancy Reagan was wrong. That's the reality of it. All right. That being said, I am the co-chair of the education committee of the NYCGPA. I work directly with the state to make sure that these policies get passed to help individuals like himself, to help individuals like Remedy. Unfortunately, they went out of business. But the reality of it is we have people here ready to set up. To not take advantage of the tax revenue is completely ludicrous. Outside of the 4%, that's going to go directly to the village. Right, part of the tax revenue after the Cannabis Oversight Committee gets what they need for funding to run their organization. 40% of that tax is going to go directly to education. Another 40% of that tax is, let me make sure I got this right. Sorry, bear with me 1 second. 40% to education, 40%, another 40% to community reinvestment funds. And then the remaining 20% goes to rehabilitation facilities, right? There's a massive drug problem in these communities. I don't have to bring it up. Everybody knows it, everybody sees it on a daily basis. Now we have a legal commodity. By opting out, that does not mean it's going to be illegal here in the town of Owego. All you're doing is going to be forcing people to other places to reinvest in other communities other than our own. I can sit here and go on for hours of the benefits of this. But you know what, there's other people here that need things to say. If I feel somebody missed something, I will speak my voice. Again, I work with the state on a daily basis to make sure that this is getting done the right way. And it's going to be a huge mistake if you opt out.
I work at B Mills, and opting out is wrong.
Who are you, sir?
My name is Chance. Chance.
Chance.
Opting out is wrong, because if Randy Williams came here and put a deed up with it, you all would allow that. I mean, if a millionaire put one up, you'd allow that. The difference between us and all of them is we don't care about the tax write-offs. We donate to the community, we don't use the tax write-off. If I give 10 grand to kids and all that, none of it's tax write-off. If the community needs money, we're there for all the kids. You need football, sports. The owners of this company is all about the youth. You want taxes from us, we'll pay taxes. But what you're taking away from kids. Already 10 grand I spent this week on Christmas gifts for kids. Hundreds of stockings, $500, $600 bikes that they're giving away. Not one of us is gonna be a tax write-off. They don't care about that. They don't do it for a tax write-off. I don't think all this is wrong. He's right. You're gonna lose lots of business. This is money for you guys, whether you like it or not. But if it was somebody rich, you would allow it. I guarantee it. In 2 years, Walmart's gonna be selling cannabis. You know what I mean? Dispensaries are gonna come. But because it's not somebody big and rich that's like a build a store here, that's why you guys drop now. That's my personal approach.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to add one thing to what I said before. If you opt out now and then realize you made a mistake and try to opt in, it's going to be too late. We need to have a dispensary here in the village immediately, because if it's not done, people are going to set up elsewhere and you're not going to have the opportunity to do so. People who are going to try to come in at that point, if you opt out, wait a year, 2 years to opt back in, it's going to be a mistake. Nobody's going to set up shop. You have 5 stores that are not open on Wade Street alone. You got the Owego Trail is falling apart. The 4% tax revenue alone, the town could pay to fix that, rather than trying to get somebody to rent it and go backwards. Another trinket store, we don't need it.
Yeah, how you doing? I'm Rich Kidney and on Chestnut Street in Owego. I used to be a cop down in Brooklyn and it was a waste of time. Locking anybody up, dragging them in for pot. You're gonna do it no matter what. Where I worked was all Haitian. After a while, we were told, leave them alone. Unless it's like really like, you know, in your face and stuff, but I mean, you might as well get the money. What the hell? This village is dying. We're getting killed with taxes. And it's getting even worse. I mean, and the money you do collect, these $20 million grants and everything, supposed to help us fix up houses. The block alone is like 5 unoccupied houses. Nobody wants to buy here and everything else, but yet you want to spend 20 million for homeless people and stuff. It's ridiculous. Like the mission with like empty beds in it. I can't believe you just want to take this tax point. It's not anybody. Please do it. Booze hurts people, cigarettes hurts people, so what? It's legal. Yeah.
Randy Williams.
Look at Nichols, but look at Nichols, but he put the casino in. Something like that. You know, half cap.
You don't want to see guys like us get money out of it.
Yeah, that's what it boils down to. We're gonna get screwed. Just like with that crazy project that got planned behind the firehouse, put up all the apartment buildings.
Well, Nichols is already taken care of. They got the casino, they could care less.
Yeah.
A little boy died last week, who's dad, you know, paid for his funeral, B Mills, paid for the funeral for the whole family. Because it was worth you. no tax write-off, they pay.
More people are gonna leave this place, especially the village, even if you live outside the village. We're getting killed with taxes just living in the village. If you live a block out of it, you're not getting killed as much as we are. Something like this, it's free money, take it. It's out there, it's legal now. I couldn't believe you wouldn't take something like this. It's a gimme, and we need it. Go ahead, sir.
Me and Christine own Owego Hemp. We've been doing this for 4 years. We didn't start this.
Could you tell us your name?
Yep, Randy O'Connor.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
We started this because it helped us, right? People found out we had CBD. They wanted to try it. It was brand new. This is 4 years ago. We were like the first in the area to do this, along with these folks that do it and grow it and manufacture it and have a fantastic company. The Sherwoods that grow it, Sherwood Forest Hemp Farms. We're all doing this industry, but we didn't do it. I understand it's money motivated, but we didn't do it for the money. We had no idea how it was gonna help people. You're not here because of the paycheck, right? You guys are all on this board because you wanted to help your community. You wanted to help the people in this town, right? Everybody, you know, that's what it's all about. Don't worry about the people, the teenagers smoking a little pot, walking down Lake Street. Think about this as your constituents, the people you go to church with, the people that you work with, that utilize it as a medicine, because that's what they're looking at. You would be stunned at the amount of people that come into our store for CBD products because it helps them. The people that came and bought off of our porch 4 years ago are still coming to this day because scientifically it works. Scientifically, THC works. That's why it's growing so fastly. We're in the people business, not the weed business, okay? There's hundreds, thousands of people that come into our stores, okay? And they spend their money because it helps. You would be helping those people. And look around, because they're not a bunch of hoodlums and crooks. These are people that go to the same churches, work in the same facilities that you guys work in. Educate yourselves before you make a decision. Understand that you're literally going to make a decision that will affect thousands and thousands of people that you see everywhere. That's just the CBD end of it. And the revenue, our tiny little store, okay, is more than enough to help fix a sidewalk based on tax revenues, okay? So this is something that will grow exponentially, can be done responsibly, highly regulated, right? And that's what you want, is to be able to help people in a regulated way. So we're all in.
To add that, I'm Brittany Carbone, and we said we have a farm in Berkshire. We have a CBD company. We've been here, growing since the first year that was allowed for private farmers. And what we have seen in the hemp industry, what you can attest to, I'm sure, is that we are getting crushed by the out-of-state market, by these huge producers, and honestly, by the demand for THC, right? Like you see, even the Delta 8 and things like that, people are looking for that, looking for these products and going to stores like yours to get that because they trust you, right? You've already developed that relationship. But it's really, I think, a testament to the promises we were made as hemp farmers, right? Is that we were going to get this economic opportunity, that the state was building this hemp program for opportunity for disadvantaged farmers in the area. And that went bust because the hemp market went bust, unfortunately. We're talking about a completely different animal here because we are siloed within the state. You have to source from the state, you have to sell from product grown in the state. So it encourages people to support local farmers, to really help the community in that way and reinvest, because that's really the key word that we keep saying here is reinvestment into the community and what actually we can't pass up. And it's absolutely not just about the revenue, it's about helping people. And you summed it up perfectly that this is not what you think of when you think of a stoner, right? That's not the kind of people who are going to be flooding your streets. It's people who are already in the community that are just seeking a way to feel better, whether that's recreational or medicinal. Cannabis is medicinal no matter what, even if it just makes you feel good when you're winding down for the night. It's medicine, and and if you don't see it that way, then ban alcohol in the town, right? Like in the village, right? That's the beginning and end of it. And that's, you can't turn down the revenue. You can't turn down more opportunities for businesses like us that have stuck with it despite the ups and downs of this industry, despite all the roadblocks that we're faced with, despite all of the red tape that we have to go through. We are well versed in managing that red tape. We are well versed in handling hemp. Was a Schedule 1 narcotic when we started to sell and grow hemp, right? We've been trusted by the DEA. You have the infrastructure here, right? You have the people here who are willing to lift this industry up on our back and do it the right way and do it responsibly, and we've proved that we can do it responsibly. And that's really, Eric said he's the co-chair of the education committee for the NYTBPA, which is the New York Cannabis Growers and Processors Association. And that's a key part of what we're trying to do as a group, is really educate not only policymakers and people who are within the industry, but more importantly, educating the community and educating the public, so that this isn't something that is like a mysterious and taboo kind of thing, but something that is really understood. And, as far as, kids underage, this is the most safest way, the safest way to make sure that that anybody that wants to consume cannabis is getting tested, third-party lab tested, to be pure, to be free from contaminants, to be what is said on the label, right? This is the only way to ensure that, or else we're all consuming cannabis anyway, right? It's happening, whether it's through a dispensary or not, it's happening. But right now, we don't know what we're getting, right? We don't know what else, it can be laced with, God forbid, right? Like, that's really the reality of it, is that this is the only way to get lab tested, verified product, that you need to be over the age of 21 to even step in the door to even look at the product, right? So it's the safest way, it's the best way to be able to generate revenue for the community, and it's the best way to get opportunity for healing in the community as well, because we definitely need that too.
My name is Catherine Foley, and I'm coming here as a mom of 3 little kids that we chose to move from Denver, Colorado back to our hometown and raise our kids here. And we are fortunate that we have people in our community that know the ins and outs of this plant, that are here to educate about this plant. And we don't have to be in this weirdo, like Brittany was saying, this scary thing that our kids might get into. And I hope that Owego is represented as a place that supports this progressive idea, that they are exposed to, again, I know we keep going back to the alcohol thing, but even prescriptions and pills and pharmacies, and seeing every aisle in every store that they go into, we can fix this and this and this and this on pills. That's not, from them, their cartoons every day have millions of commercials telling them what could be wrong with them and how they can fix it with a pharmaceutical pill. And this is something from the ground, from the earth, and something very cool that's from the land that they get to be on, and they understand where it's coming from. And it's not, they see people walking out of the bar, they're not immune to all of it. And the more we hide it, and the more we pretend like it's not a part of their existence, the more it's gonna hurt them in the long run. And I know how I grew up with it, and I know that we have a chance to change how my kids grow up with it. And I hope that Owego is leading the way and taking the benefit that we have of honest farmers that are going to make sure that they do get the right knowledge about it.
So I know Irina wanted to speak online.
Hi, Mike.
Hey.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I was originally coming here to say something that everybody else has already said already, but I just don't understand why, after the economic hit that our county and our people have taken due to COVID, why any sitting official would turn down a chance of millions in revenue, why they would adopt a wait and see what happens, let's keep our options open approach, when the people who are ready to have this business and help our community are ready now. And by the time that you get around to deciding, they will go elsewhere. And I just would like to know if anyone is willing to own up to that they're making this decision to choose to potentially lose this revenue. And maybe there could be a show of hands today of who is willing to do that and potentially sacrifice this area even further after we've suffered so many academic losses. I just don't understand. And I think people would like to know who is voting against this. So, my comment.
Thanks, Ariana.
Yep.
Do we have anybody else online want to say anything? Again, this is about the point of sale. And we'll do one about on-site consumption. Somebody new online has a cell phone. Anybody else here?
Anyone can answer a question, hand up, raise your hand against it. Use that card, vote against it, raise your hand behind it, 8%.
Well, we do a vote.
Well,
so
we'll
it's
talk
roll
here.
call.
Anyone show hands that were against it, you will. Well, I don't even smoke here, I suppose it. To be honest.
Anybody else have any other comments on the point of sale?
Is today the deciding factor? Are all you voting on this today? So we bring it to a referendum, because it seems like this is the village itself will vote for it.
Possibly. All those are options.
I know my options, trust me. I educate the state on it.
So we'll see how it goes down after the public hearings.
Well, what is the final vote?
Before,
Well, after the public hearings, then there
When's
needs to
the
be
public hearing?
public hearing.
Right now.
Right now.
I'm saying nothing else, right?
Well, if the board chooses to have a second public hearing, they could. But after the public hearings are ended, then there needs to be a motion by some board member to adopt the law in a second, and then a roll call vote. It'll all be done in public. But nothing's gonna be done, behind a paper and pens. All gonna be right here. They might choose to act tonight. They might choose to not act tonight. If nobody wants to motion for it, you might see just nothing happen. In which case, the board is just letting it die, meaning we opted in.
Yes.
Right.
and then if we did vote, to opt out, not saying we would, but if we did,
I have one more thing to say during public comment. This is Laura Young. If you choose to do nothing because you're such cowards to stay current with the times, this is a legal product. It is legal. You may not like it. It's time to give up your Puritan ways. You are sacrificing revenue. Revenue in a village that's dying. Homeowners are going into foreclosure. We have an IDA bill of $14 million that's going to pay a grand total supposedly of $7K a year. Our FEMA rates are going through the roof. We pay the highest premium in the United States for flood insurance. You opting out by doing nothing, you're cowards. Thank you.
thanks, Laura.
I'll just say one thing. Josh Tully, live on Waits Road. This is my wife. If there's one thing that is an issue and it's who's smoking or who's not, having lived in Denver when this happened in, I'm gonna forget the date, like maybe 2016 or 17, and I watched the lines go around blocks, and it wasn't like the gangbangers or it was like, you wouldn't believe it. People walking out of banks in their suits with the briefcase, standing in line. And I have to tell you, I grew up in the Midwest and I didn't know what to expect. And then when I saw that, it kind of like lightened it up a little bit. And a lot of their revenue went to like the roads and school district. And before you knew it, in 2 or 3 years, there was an express lane going out to the mountains. It did change. It changed kind of how the way of life was there, and the economy just exploded. But that was just, if that is a deciding factor as to who's doing it, I think that would be something to consider.
This is just on the point of sale, then we'll do a separate hearing in 5 minutes about these on-site consumption or lounges.
Can you explain the difference of the point of sale and the larger vote?
Yeah, so the point of sale is like a dispensary or a store where you can buy it. And the on-site consumption is a marijuana bar for per se.
Can I explain the on-site consumption a little more clearly? Is that okay? So an on-site consumption with a lounge, like you said before, wouldn't be a wrong term. It doesn't necessarily have to be a lounge. It could be a restaurant. It could be a social club. It could be a lounge, like you said. But that being said, on-site consumption lounges will also be able to sell. So you will still be collecting the tax revenue of 4% and everything else, like I mentioned before, from the on-site consumption. So the only difference is rather than people walking on the street and smoking, which they're going to do anyway, they do it now, it's always going to be that way. You're now giving people a safe place to buy a fully regulated, like Brittany brought up before, product and a safe place to consume. So,
Also, it's worth noting that alcohol cannot be served
Yes.
in consumption lounges. There cannot be a mix between THC and alcohol or any other type of intoxicating substance. So it wouldn't be like a bar per se with a bar. It would replace alcohol.
yeah, it could be a juice bar, it could be a restaurant, it could be, again, a smoking club, or you come in with your blazer and you enjoy yourself, whatever it may be. But there's a lot to be said to the on-site consumption. I think it should also be noted that, sorry. We'll get that myself.
Cigarettes are illegal to smoke in bars and anywhere else. Are you able to smoke cigarettes if this lounge is open? Or just pot?
No, because, but New York law, you cannot smoke cigarettes indoors.
New York sucks.
Yeah. But that be that.
We don't get to decide. All right, any more comments about the point of sale or distribution sites? Okay. Close that
I'm
public-
interested in, I haven't heard anyone say anything against the point of sale. So I'm assuming there's some contention, at least on the board side. I'm just wondering if we'll get to hear any arguments from that direction. Sorry, Gabe Tannenhouse. I live on Academy Street.
Or just speak after you guys finish speaking.
Got it.
Right.
Thank you.
Once the public hearing is closed, then we'll talk about it.
So you'll leave the channel open.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
For your own. All right, it's 7:30.
I have one question.
Sure.
I'm Christine Horton. Talked to you earlier, Mike. I live on Gasco Road in Owego. Regarding the town, the difference between the town and the village.
Oh, yes.
I understand it's completely separate. They get to do their thing. You guys get to do your thing. Unfortunately, we weren't able to come to the last meeting where it was a joint thing, so we missed out on that. But I've been kind of fighting this fight since the very beginning with town. And my feeling is that the town is an absolute no, 100% no. Okay, I don't know if we can sway the town. So my question is this. My business is currently in the town. Morgan has Your Essential Cannabis in the village. Remedy was in the village, but then they closed. B Mills is now down the road from me. If B Mills doesn't have to have a license, and I can't get a license because I'm in the town of Owego. My question is, have you guys, I guess you can't talk about it to us, but amongst yourselves, between the two boards, have you really discussed this, like really laid out and, you know, what people are thinking and what the ramifications are going to be one way or the other if one group says yes and one group says no?
Then what happened a week ago?
Apparently I didn't miss much there.
No, and in my, I'll summarize, I think that it's, when we were there last week, it's a lack of education. And I don't think that there was enough around surrounding people looking at the law and looking at the ramifications. And I don't think that it was out there for everybody to know. I don't even live in the village. I don't live in the town. My name is Leslie Davis and I'm a hemp farmer right outside in Owego and Nichols. We live on a 300 acre dairy farm that was, the dairy farm was put out of business because of the fact that you can't make anything in agriculture. So we're trying to revive this. This is a 3rd generation dairy farm. So we were lucky enough to get a license to grow hemp, and we would like to convert. One thing that cannot be opted out of is the cultivation. So if I'm lucky enough to get the license, I would certainly like to be able to sell my product to the dispensaries locally to be able to get the tax revenue here versus me having to travel and sell my wares to Broome County, to Ithaca,
New York City.
to New York City.
Consumers want to buy local. Consumers want to support Leslie's Farm, right? If they go into the dispensary, they want to look for a farm that's right in the full sense in Berkshire. That's it. In all the surrounding areas that they live in and that they work in, that they know people in, that they trust. That's really, I think, a key here is that, our product won't sell as well. Families, people have the connection to it. So again, it's about that economic opportunity for the farmers and the businesses that's really needed, right? A 3rd generation dairy farm that, how many stories are there like that around here? Too many. So it's really about keeping this local economy thriving in a way that really supports everybody.
And in the long run, it's also going to support all of the other businesses. It's going to bring people in from, like again, there's going to be one in Binghamton, there's going to be one in Ithaca. Anywhere in between, probably not. Like we can corner the market on this outside of, the 2 cities over here. We can corner everything in between.
And being a border town, I mean, Pennsylvania could be years before they go legal. I heard those people will migrate up here from PA every day.
And we're right
I
here.
bet you guys see a lot of people.
I can tell you that.
Yeah, so I would say,
People from Williamsport and Scranton come up here. Every day.
You go to
People from
Massachusetts,
Rochester, Buffalo come down here.
you go to
Syracuse.
Massachusetts, if you go to a dispensary in Massachusetts, you don't see one Massachusetts plate in the parking lot. Every single plate is New York. You know why? Because people want to buy safe, regulated cannabis. And unfortunately, so not quite as of yet, you can't get it here in the States. So people will drive. We've done. We've driven 4 hours. Valentine's Day last year, we drove to a dispensary in Massachusetts. It's all New York plates. We're already dumping money into other states. Why opt out here? It's a border town today, that was a huge border.
yeah. And on top of that, when they come here, guess what else they're gonna do? They gotta eat,
Yep, exactly.
get gas. They're probably gonna spend the night in one of our beautiful hotels. I think you gotta think about it really hardcore, because it's not just, I hate to say it, but it's not just about the revenues. It's the people. And if you can help people stay healthy, mentally, physically healthy, they're happier people, they're better people, they work more, they don't call in sick as much. You know what I'm saying? Because they're mentally healthy. It's a big deal. And again, thousands of them are people you know.
Yeah, they're not gonna walk out the door and follow the road and,
No.
I mean, it's not like that, you guys. It's not reefer madness, it's a thing that's, it's here, it's gonna be here. And, yeah, you should.
Cutting edge, let's be innovators.
Exactly. We can
Lead the way for all these other towns.
Owego and be a hotspot. Completely revitalize this entire village. Not 10, it will.
Coolest small town in America.
Yeah. A quick comment, a really close friend of mine, who's a 2-time cancer survivor and has dealt with a lot of pain issues, is now actually getting a master's degree in cannabis medical therapy. So it's, as a medical tool, as a father with Parkinson's, I can't get my dad to do it. It makes tremors reduce, but you have to get in people's head to think this is really medicine. But the US medical establishment data is coming. Once, we allow that mechanism in the government to fund it, the data will follow, and we don't just have to give more money to this one.
Certainly, and the colleges are already picking up these courses.
Right.
Cannabis.
Community college, I actually more too. We helped design the curriculum for Cornell's Chem Master's program. We hired students from graduates from those programs. It's gonna bring a lot of jobs.
To answer that man's question about bringing money to other businesses, I can 100% say that's true. Being at the Waverly B Mills, at least 60 to 70 people that come from Pennsylvania go across the street, eat at Lisa's, Rail House, or the pub all week long. At least 60. We're stopping there for a burger and I'll like drive an hour and a half back all week long. Lisa's Burger will tell you the same thing. Many people go there all week long to go to B Mills. Same with Rail House and the pub. And they stop at the D&D get gas because it's cheaper than Pennsylvania.
That's true.
So that is a fact, what he said.
All right, any other comments on the sale or the point of sale? Actually, it was at 7:39. So now we'll open the public comment on the other local law, which is on-site consumption.
Yeah, this is Laura Young again, 105 Chestnut Street. Once again, America is built on freedom. This is legal now in New York. People have the right to have the kind of stores they want to have. I believe marijuana is good for people in medicinal in cases, definitely. I don't smoke marijuana. I don't consume marijuana. I don't drink. Yeah, I have seen the most disgusting behaviors in bars in Owego, drunk and disorderly. Once again, I actually took the time today, hours, to go through our official paper of record morgue. And what I discovered is, again and again on the police blotter, drunken and disorderly, drunken and physical assault. People who smoke or consume weed, and I know many, it's here. We all know it's here. I can prove it with police blotters if I want to write an editorial for the paper. It's here. Regardless of what your prejudice are against marijuana, it doesn't matter. It's legal. In America, people have a right to start businesses like a lounge. It would be great, and people would come in. And you know what we have in Owego besides taxpayers dying? We have empty storefronts. Lots of empty storefronts, just waiting for businesses to come in. Prejudice, personal prejudice, should not weigh at all in your consideration. It shouldn't. This is a legal product. People have a right to set up the businesses they want to set up with if they're selling legal goods. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I'd like to also just add that there are cases where people cannot consume cannabis within their homes. We are one of them. We live in an apartment building right on Front Street. Like a lot of apartment buildings, you cannot smoke, light candles, right? Anything, but no matter what, you can't have anything like that in on premises in the apartment. And for people who really need this as medicine, right? I need it to sleep at night, right? I have really bad anxiety and it helps me sleep at night. I have to go outside while, I'm walking my dog and smoke, right? Which isn't ideal now, especially in Owego winters, right? It's not like the best way to have to consume your medicine. And you know what? There's a lot of people who are not in best as good as health as I am, right? There are people who really do need this as medicine. A lot of the times, the people who need it and don't have access to it and are living in public housing or living in conditions where they don't have the freedom, they don't own the property that they live in, those freedoms are taken away, right? It's just a landlord statement that they can't do that within their homes, and that restricts access, that restricts, some people might not feel comfortable smoking on the street. Some people, like I said, might not be healthy and able to be able to smoke on the street. So not only does consumption lounges, what comes to mind first is oh, this is a place like a bar, right? There's social and having fun, and that 100% can be what it be, can be what it can be. But it can also be a place for people to safely consume in an area that they're comfortable with, and an area where they don't have to feel like they are going to get evicted by using their medicine, and in an area where they don't have to feel uncomfortable and be shivering cold when they're using cannabis for body pain, and they're so tense and shivering, smoking it outdoors that it's, canceling out the benefits that they want to feel, that relaxation that they can really get from cannabis. So I think that just needs to be at the forefront of everybody's minds when thinking about this. It's not just about that recreational side. It's not just about creating another kind of social scene. It really is about creating a safe space for consumers to consume and not be out in the street, right? Like if you are concerned about it, people blowing smoke in kids' faces or, walking down the street in clouds of smoke, this is how you get it off the street and create these spaces.
Yeah, I guess I would just chime in real quick. Imagine if you had diabetes, some form of cancer, multiple sclerosis, any of these diseases, and you couldn't take your medicine in your own home. I mean, this sounds crazy, but it's what it is. In our store, we have people come in all the time with those issues. We're just a CBD store, but they utilize that medicine because that's what makes them better. They've been down the road for 15 years of the opioids and take this pill, and then that pill counters that. And that one's for another thing. They can use the products that help them, right? CBD and THC going forward, right? In their own homes. Also, I called a friend of mine that works at the sheriff's department. And I thought about this and I asked him if he could help me put together a list. I wanted weed arrests versus alcohol arrests, weed accidents versus alcohol accidents, weed deaths versus alcohol deaths, spousal situations in the home, weed versus alcohol. He said, Randy, he said, I'd have to hire a staff of 10 people. He said, I would have to go back literally years to try to compile any kind of reasonable comparison because there is no comparison. He said that it's been literally months, maybe over a year, since he's written a ticket for an accident or anybody that he's pulled over for weed. Conversely, the alcohol-related accidents, right, are because people are out drinking, they're driving, they're angry, they get in accidents, right? We all know that, right? There's no comparison that can even be made between the two products. However, I also learned that just within about 10 to 15 miles from our Owego hemp store, there's about a dozen liquor stores, right? That's not even counting the bars. I've been sober since 1999. I haven't had a cigarette, an alcoholic drink, or a drug, right? I don't have nothing vested in this except people and them having the ability to make their own decisions. And that's what this really boils down to. So whether it's direct sale or a lounge, why not?
Give people what they want.
Come up with one good reason not to give them that choice.
Can I interrupt for 1 second? I have one more comment. This is Laura Young. It is all about people, sir, and it's not just about people being allowed access to a legal commodity. It is legal. We will, if we opt out on either, we will harm the people you're concerned about, harm my friends who take it for medicinal reasons. But more importantly, I think you will see our village die further from a lack of revenue, a real revenue stream that could take some of the burden off our taxpayers. My house currently, I'm on Chestnut Street. Currently there are 6 vacant houses on my street. 2 foreclosures happened within the last month because people couldn't pay their FEMA insurance, raise their children, and pay their taxes. These were good people. These were good, law-abiding people. The police were never at their house. They were part of our neighborhood watch. They had their houses foreclosed on them. I have a house now. My house, I can get 42 grand for my house. 42 grand for a house that, guess how much I'm paying in FEMA insurance? $1,400 a year on a house that's now valued at 42,000. This will help not only your clientele, it will help people get a legal product. It will provide a safe place for them, but also a lounge too. And these people will spend more money in Owego. We have empty storefronts. We have whole streets of empty houses. And here we have a revenue source. It would be criminal not to take advantage of this. Thank you.
I just have one more thing. Prohibition, look how many people died from bad booze because it wasn't regulated, like people can do. The places where they drank, all like holes, pits in the wall and everything else. I personally, I don't smoke pot, but I love beer. I love whiskey. I love scotch. And I smoke my ass off. But it's nuts. It can be controlled, it can be handled, and we can make money off it. What the hell? It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And I remember in the 80s, I think it was the early 80s, when a bad batch from Mexico, a whole boatload of pot came up that was poisonous.
Paraguay.
Yeah, a bunch of people died and everything else. And who the hell knows, like all these young kids, it's like a ritual, like when you hit 18, 17, 18, well, at least when I was in school, but that was a long time ago. It was a ritual. Everybody tries pot, at least, you know. And I feel a lot safer, my kids, when they turn 18 or whatever, at least trying it and getting it legit, or somebody else getting it legit, and they try it younger even if they do, but I can do it. We all want to read it. But, I mean, I cannot see any reasons not to cash in on this when it's safe, makes it safer for the kids, brings money and revenue, people that are dying like in this village. And no matter what you feel the drugs are, I mean, I don't know, in a way I agree with Nancy, but pot wasn't really where to start. I mean, back then it wasn't really regulated as much either. And another thing, it's gonna take a lot of these drug dealers off the street because big money in that. Plus it's gonna stop them bringing it over the border. It's controlled here. Who's making all the money now? Cartels down in Mexico or Colombia and stuff.
Hey, who knows? Maybe they don't want the Marines. Maybe it's gonna be like Denver. Maybe there's gonna be maybe that's what they don't want to see.
I read an article, a lady, one of the concern was about teenagers getting their hands on weed. When I was a teenager, I found a way to get cigarettes on my bottle. I found a way to get alcohol. It's no different. You take away these dispensaries, they're still gonna get weed off the street. But my personal opinion, I'd rather him trying to cop a bag of weed than a cop a bag of heroin all day long. It's gonna happen, he's gonna get away to get weed. You ain't stopping it. I did when I was a teen. I'm sure many of you did, found someone to buy you a pack of cigarettes, beer. Like, you know, it's gonna happen. You take the dispensary away, just to answer that lady's question. You take all that away, he's gonna go around the corner, his buddy's gonna give him a bag of weed from his other buddy's drug. It's gonna happen.
Or actually, they're gonna steal it from the hemp farm and sell it.
Because that's what they do. That's what they do. That's what they do.
Rather than trying to push the point that we're all facing here, if there are people that want the education, I can help provide that education. Like I said, I work with the state. I can go in deep into the testing that is involved in all of this, from pesticides, microbials, heavy metals. I mean, you name it, it's getting tested for. We have been in the industry for 4 years. We have a farm in Berkshire. We have a processing and manufacturing facility where we do all the extractions on the material. Now, I can tell you the amount of money that we spend on this testing to make sure that we're providing and compliant product more than anything. This is helping people more so than any revenue that will come in. It can help get people off of other drugs. That's not hearsay, it's fact. That's medical studies. So it's a cure for the opioid epidemic. There's a massive drug problem. People that are curious, people want to find out more, this people that are against it, these people don't understand. I'd be more than happy to non-biased, just to simply provide the education and answer questions. I think it's a good, and I'm sure there are.
Could I throw in one thing? It's Lori Young again. If this board has done its due diligence, it should have, we are not reinventing the wheel here. There are many states that have opted in. There are many communities out there. I did simple Google searches today to find out, first off, how well the community did, communities our size when they opted in, and then how well they did, the lounges did. And I found across the board that it revitalized the community. It brought in revenue. And frankly, this board, their biggest job is the budget. Their biggest job is making sure we have services, safe roads, a police department that's properly manned, that we have money, and taxpayers cannot pay anymore. Here's my thing. Due diligence by this board would have been simple Google searches to find out in like-sized communities across the nation what ramifications, good or bad, point of sales and lounges had on their communities. And what they would have found if they'd done this is that it's largely 100% positive. So I totally agree with you on education. And had I been a board member, that's what I would have done. I would have seen like scenarios. We are not recreating the wheel. And once again, to opt out of both is just financial suicide. Thank you.
One more thing is, there's language in the bill as it stands that a certain amount of licenses, specifically up to 50% of licenses, are reserved for social equity applicants, which include women, people of color, people harmed by the war on drugs, disadvantaged farmers, veterans. All these populations have preferred licensing. And if you walk through Owego right now, one of the most beautiful things these past few months is to see how almost every business is women-owned. We have these banners, waving in the front of all these businesses. We have so many women-owned businesses. God knows we have disadvantaged farmers, veterans, and this is really be a way, they are writing it into the policy that we do have, priority when it comes to gaining these licenses, right? Again, they're building an opportunity for us to capitalize on supporting our communities, and it's up to us to, and you guys really, not really me, I don't have much control here. It's up to you guys to allow us to do that, right? Because if you stand in the way of this policy going through, in the way that it is written currently, then you're standing in the way of once in a lifetime opportunity for social equity applicants, for minority owned businesses to actually have a leg up, right? And it's, a lot of promise that we get paid and a lot of kind of, slip service that usually gets paid to, supporting businesses like that and actually creating this opportunity. And it's right here, like in the palm of our hands, we just have to grab it and we can really help. Again, there's obviously a lot of amazing women in this community. There's a lot of people in this community that fall into those categories. So let's help them out.
Anybody else about the on-site consumption? $7.57 for that. Close? Yeah. So you guys want to talk about Owego before we move on to the next thing? Rusty?
I want to say one thing. Thank you for coming and speaking and listening to you all speak. And now it's our turn to speak. It's not your turn now, so you don't get to jump in and ask questions and yell stuff at us. Please don't do that. We had one of those meetings a month ago. We're not prepared. Thank you. We're not prepared to make a decision. I say this, so I've already spoken for others, but I'm going to speak for me, and I suspect we're not prepared to make a decision on this. This is really quickly upon us. We do have to make a decision, some one way or another, do something or not do something by the 31st of December. We're going to, I assume, talk about this in various pieces. We're going to talk to other members of our community. We're going to get more information. I wouldn't want to make a decision on the amount of information that's been available that we got. So I don't think we're going to make any decision about this time. The rest of the board will tell you if they're thinking the same way that I am. So and if you're thinking that we're just gonna, one last piece, I don't like having a public hearing and then, oh, we listen, everybody, thanks for talking, then we just vote it. We were gonna vote because it was already undecided. It's not undecided, so we're not gonna vote some way like that. And you're gonna know when, if and when we're about to make a decision. You'll have another opportunity to speak, even if it's not a public hearing. There's always public comment at all our meetings, so you'll have more opportunity to speak if we. That's my opinion about what we're gonna do today. Anybody else about that?
I can respect that.
Is everybody's, the other board members thinking that same way?
Yeah, back to digest.
Yeah, I would agree.
I've done the Google search, I've done the law review, I mean, hours and hours, despite what people think we don't do. We actually do due diligence to get through this.
Well, part of that was moving these laws to opt out forward enough to get a public hearing so that we could listen to all you guys. Because if we didn't move them forward enough to, opt out, we wouldn't have this public hearing. So.
And I did hear a lot of concerns about us thinking about the types of people that smoke, that really hasn't come across the board at all. Our concern is New York State and their inability to stick to their timeline they have put forth. And that's the biggest hiccup, is New York State.
What timeline?
The timeline that the governor put forward, that he wanted certain things in place, they has not yet met that timeline. As far as giving us exact.
Well, we have to decide by January 1st whether we're gonna opt out or not.
Ron is talking about the regulations that would go, that the state may or may not enact about on-site consumption and dispensaries and like what exactly that's gonna look like. Right now, municipalities don't know exactly what the state is going to say about those things. And even what what the localities can do to really regulate other than time, place, and manner, the typical zoning stuff. So some places are choosing to opt out now, waiting for the regulations to be issued. I think the gentleman's point about how wherever it's possible, people are going to go immediately. And I think the board does need to think about that. I mean, it's an opportunity loss potentially because places, they'll be set up elsewhere. If you want it.
I was just speaking of what Ron said, they were supposed to, the board appointed in June, and they were supposed to have final rules and regulations by the end of September. They didn't even appoint the board by then. So they're way behind schedule, giving us guidance and stuff. Just our upsetness with, upsetness, that's the word. Government and how they.
Question for you, sir.
Yes.
Is there another way to ingest it besides an apple?
Yeah, topically.
Like, I have no idea.
Yeah, so there's topically, you can inhale it, you can eat it, and it's not just like gummies and chocolates. There is a massive scene rolling across this country with 5 and 10-course meals by all-star chefs. I mean, you can incorporate it into anything.
Now, would that have the same effect, say you couldn't smoke in your apartment, would you have an edible and have the same effect as if you inhaled?
Yes, yeah.
Yes and no.
Or does it have to go through the liver and all that?
There's different, yeah, you're gonna obviously.
And what, some people have better results with better consumption methods, so, yeah, that's true.
But to that point, there is gonna be limitations in the recreational markets to the amount of milligrams per edible. So you're not, to the edible point, like, you can't go in there and buy a 4,000 milligram edible. I mean, that's enough to send an elephant to the moon and back. You know what I mean? So there is regulations in point, and just, not a comment, but.
No, I engaged you, so.
Yeah, I have weekly meetings and we're back and forth with the state. To his point, yes, it has been delayed. The Oversight Cannabis Committee has been appointed now. I believe it was appointed at the end of June, early July. And according to the information that we're getting, we should be getting some information within the next 4 to 6 weeks. The December 31st deadline, it really does kind of bring that close. I read, I'm not sure if it's factual or not, but it seems that there is a possibility they may extend that December 31st. I'd be more than happy to share any information I get from the state when I get it with you guys to help
I mean, I would appreciate that email. If you could send it.
I'm here for the community, like, anything I can do to help, so.
I will just add that we were actually at an event this week and I was speaking right after Tremaine Wright, who is the chair of the Cannabis Control Board that was appointed by Governor Hochul after Como was out of there and stopped holding things up, right? But she was basically, expressing the urge to really get this done quickly, but to get it done right, which I think is what we all have in mind, right? Is that we don't want to rush things. Obviously, we want to get businesses up and running, but we want to make sure that we're doing it the right way. And, something that is really great about the new governor and the appointments that she made is that it is representative of the language of the bill, which was not going to really happen with Como in place. We all know why Como was ousted, right? And this bill wouldn't have gotten passed if that whole situation didn't happen with him. So we really the stars aligned for us in the cannabis industry with everything that transpired this past summer. And they are moving pretty rapidly. Once they were appointed, they now have finally, since we've been waiting since 2019 now, the hemp regulations that were proposed are now finally, being enacted into actual regulation, and the medical program has been expanded. So they are finally on track. It has been a delay, and anybody who's trying to get into the industry, I'm sure, is continually discouraged by the timelines as well. But I think it also gives us an opportunity now to really have these conversations and to, if we do opt in, to make sure that we're doing it the right way and that these licenses are going to people who are qualified, who are responsible, and who can really represent the county effectively.
We keep the money in the town, like people who live here should be operating.
I don't mean to interrupt, we gotta keep this.
Yeah,
I apologize. Thank you.
Well, as a board member, one of the things I'm concerned about is, once we decide on opting in or out, is we need to look at zoning as far as where facilities would be, use in our public parks and so on, that type of thing.
Do any of our board members online have any comments? I see we got Charles and Ed.
Yeah, I would like to say something. It's my opinion. I've had the opportunity to sit down and speak extensively with the owner of Owego Hemp. He is a great person. He educated me in the products that he has there, and I could only wish that I could partake in the products, but because I work for a company that I operate heavy machinery, my employer frowns upon that, which is kind of ironic because I made it through the 80s back in the days where drugs epidemic was very high, especially the crack epidemic that I survived through. I'm just 2 clicks north of being 60. And at the end of 56 hours of working a week, my body is ravished. And I wish I could just come home and spark up a spliff and unwind. But I can't. But I see the benefits because, like I said, the owner of Owego Hemp has educated me in the CBDs and the oils and everything. But I can't do that. But so now I'm stuck with lining the pockets of big pharmaceuticals for over-the-counter addictive drugs that don't do anything for the pain that I suffer. So what benefits these products have for people in our community, I'm all for it because they need relief. We got to think of our community. We got to think of the people. And I only wish that I could benefit from these things. So, hey, opt in? Yeah, I'm all for it. So that's what I think. I mean, these businesses that want to help out our community, I don't think they're trying to be Tony Montana. or any cartel. They're not in it for the money. They're in it for the health and the benefits that it produces. I agree with that because it's the right thing to do. I mean, I've seen what addictive drugs do to people. I don't think marijuana is addictive. I don't never hear people going out and robbing and stealing just to get a joint. It's dumb. But there's a lot of municipal purposes that it benefits. And I wish that my fellow residents can benefit from those things after their long, hard week of working or whatever medical ailments that they have going in their life that can be remedied by these products. Thinking what else I had to say, but that's basically my opinion and where I stand. And I just like to say that I don't appreciate being called a coward because of whatever stance I have or any of my co-board workers have. I think those kind of comments should be left in the playground where they should be. Name calling is not going to get us anywhere as a community. So that's all I got to say about that.
Charles, I did not call you a coward. I said that by not having to vote when a vote came up.
That's all I got to say about that.
Hey, Mike, it's Ed. I can't add anything to that. I agree with a lot of what Charles just said.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Sorry, Charles spoke to.
No, I'll tell you, I agree with Charles. I don't see any use waiting another week or 2 or 4 to vote on this. I don't think we're gonna learn anything more in the next month. I mean, I personally have legal authority to buy medical marijuana. I go to Johnson City to buy it. And I will buy it here for good.
So I guess, let's say if we had a motion and a second to, well, they have to get that all.
If you want to take affirmative action to shoot it down, do a motion to withdraw consideration of the local laws 3 and 4 or 3 or 4. I mean, it's the local law. You don't have to do anything. Just like.
Yes, I would go for that, Nate. I would like to withdraw those 2 laws. I propose that we withdraw those 2 laws.
We have a second to that?
Second that.
Okay, so now it's a thing. What does that mean?
So there's certainly items on the agenda for approval. And so instead of tabling them or continuing that as an agenda item going forward, they just be, just off.
Rusty, we go. Now a discussion of that, yes.
So to repeat my opinion before, I believe that we haven't heard from I've heard from many of my residents, many of my taxpayers, many of my people. We haven't included the community in this. I know we have a public hearing right now. We haven't done that piece. We haven't talked about it amongst ourselves. I feel that it's not the proper way to go about things. It's not the proper way to pass rules and laws, which I've lectured before many times about process and how you go about it. And so I think this is not the time to do that.
Well, we have a motion in a second, so do we have any more discussion about that? Or any questions about what Fran and Laura have proposed? Is this proposed to it?
I believe that's what Fran.
Yes, I'm proposing that we withdraw those
3 and 4, whatever.
law 3 and 4.
We don't have any discussion on that. I guess let's vote on that. Brand?
And I do have one message, because we're not voting, we're still not voting to pass them. She just moved that we vote to withdraw them. So if we don't pass that motion, then there's still not laws, we still have not passed them, we would again still be looking at other things. So this is not, I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
So if we don't do that motion, it didn't opt us out, it just continued our discussion and our exploration of more information. Right?
Well, if we don't opt out, then we are in. As of January 1st.
What? That's
not what he said.
He said if this vote failed.
We haven't opted out or entering
The local law is still in
we're
place.
just continuing on our process of gathering information.
Let's vote on whether we kill these local laws or we move them forward. Fran?
Yes,
A yes vote here means that we don't move the law.
we
forward.
dropped these laws.
Right. The law is not that. It's all confusing. Trustee?
No.
Laura?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Ron?
No.
And yes. Hopefully that'll work out.
Back to got to the.
So if those wanted to be considered again, we'd have to have another new local laws and public hearing.
I would say I'd recommend you to do the fall.
Right. That's topic stuff. Oh, with a question, I guess.
Yeah, just had a question about how we find out about the public hearings. Thank God for Leslie over here, let us know tonight, but how can we make sure that, you know, the community, knows when these are coming up and we know when they're coming up? That's a good resource.
That's a good question. So they're always in the newspaper. The newspaper is the Courier. They're on our website. They are usually on Facebook somewhere somehow. Yeah, the best place is the Courier and our website.
Thank you.
Unofficially, Facebook's the best place.
Oh, yeah, the meetings are generally, I know a bunch of you guys in the town. The meetings generally are the first and third Monday of every month. That's when you want to be looking for something.
Because I don't have any idea what you just voted on. You just tell us.
So we voted to not move the laws to opt out forward.
So we have. Get rid of those laws. They don't have to talk about it now. They don't have to make a decision now.
No, we made a decision, have to have the law.
But that means that you.
So they're opting in as a.
Right.
Oh.
I just want to say, regardless of what you guys decide, I respect every one of you and the decisions, but I have to go. Thank you for all your service you're doing right there. Regardless, I respect all of you for your job.
Thanks for coming.
Sure, it's a pain in the ass.
So yeah, we voted to not opt out, or, well, not,
Yeah.
I don't know, not entertain the law to opt out.
Yeah, we're on the tracks.
We table those.
Like I said, we didn't pass the laws to opt out.
We kind of dissolved those.
The world hasn't ended yet. There, there's a state senator, I'm not saying good, bad, right or wrong, I'm giving you information. There's a state senator in upstate New York that has proposed that because of the state and everything else, that opt-out period, and because everything is going to get pushed back. They thought that the sale might start at the end of 2022. It may be longer now with all these delays, et cetera, et cetera. He's proposing a bill to move that opt-out period farther down the road. We'll see how that goes. So anyway, at this time, the laws that we propose to potentially opt out, we decided not to adopt those laws. That's what we did. we're not gonna have to hear. We're gonna do other crap businesses for you. But we won't be calling it sneaky vote time.
Listening to us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Oh,
you.
I have something to tell you.
Yeah.
Thank you all for,
Yeah. Thank you, guys, I appreciate It's 4%.
Are we holding the third public hearing now?
Okay, but this is from the office running. You can. It's 4%.
13, city, 1 county, 3 for the local.
4% goes to county and local. County and village, 4% to county and village.
Okay. I hope so. Hope you're right.
Have a good day, have a good night, everyone, thank you.
So,
I just did that next one, I can leave myself.
okay. All right, guys, the next part of the meeting, Ron wants to make a motion.
I move that we just dismiss this public hearing for residency requirements for the board.
Do you want to do the same thing with this law?
Yes.
I'll second.
No. Well, so the idea is if the board will not be considered, will not pass this law, then we don't need a public hearing.
So we got a motion, a second. Last week, this meeting, we had a bunch of people. This is on the expanding the volunteer board residency, which is the zoning board and the planning board. We've had some people come forward. Number of people come forward that are village residents and express interest.
I can't hear anything.
Ed, Charles, did you guys get that?
I couldn't hear anything.
Yeah, just some kind of interference.
Hold on, I'm gonna mute Ed. There we go. So the motion is to not move forward with the law to expand the residency on the planning and zoning boards out to the county level. Because we've had interest from village residents from then until now to join the planning and zoning boards.
Okay, we've got a first and a second for that, a motion and a second.
Yes.
Okay.
Do we have any other discussion on that, questions? Shall we vote on that, Fran?
I vote that we
So a yes would.
cancel the board. Yes, yes.
Rusty? Yes. Laura?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
And yes. So now we don't have to have that public hearing.
Laws drafted.
Yeah.
Just toss them all.
Okay, we have someone else. Who
So let's do.
We do have a law that we had a public hearing for, the flood damage prevention law, and that's still within its timeline after the public hearing for us to vote. And so I'd like to bring that up for us to do at the time.
We haven't closed out public comment.
Meeting, have a vote.
We haven't opened it yet either, so.
Public comment?
Okay, so which,
I'm gonna do public comment first.
Yeah. Public comment first. So let's do public, we'll do public comment now. Or our regular.
All right, so I'd like to talk during public comment. This is Laura Young, 105 Chestnut, about the flood mitigation law. Once again, I will come out and say it. My house is valued now, because I'm surrounded by abandoned buildings, is valued at $42K. It's a beautiful house. I take great pride in my house. It's a historic home. It's from 1861. I have an additional lot on the side. Even with that, I can only get $42K. Why? There are 6 houses abandoned on Chestnut Street. Taxpayers cannot pay the FEMA insurance. If this law, and it will, gets us in well with FEMA, it will help us with the community rating system, which means that we could have a discount even of 5%, which could go up to 25%. This is a huge savings. It could mean the difference between a low-income family who are homeowners, who have a mortgage and therefore have to carry FEMA insurance. It could make a huge difference to low, mid-range income. It can make a difference to your middle-class homeowners who have to put their kids through college. We're talking huge money. I shouldn't be telling you this, but I don't care. My house is worth 42 grand. I pay $1,400 a year on FEMA insurance. That's disgusting. And if this law could help us get a discount, you would actually save your tax base here in neighborhoods that are compromised, that are impoverished, where homeowners are just holding on by a shoestring. That's all I have to say.
Nice. Public comment? Julie?
Yeah, I agree with everything she says. It's true. I mean, Chestnut Street, when I first got there, it's a nice street. But then you get your slumlords, houses fall apart, everything else. And it's a shame, these taxes and all these other things are killing everybody. And it just, our place is just gonna get worse and worse. Till they start doing something with it. But, and the young families, I mean, I already own the house, my house, but these young families just trying to start out and stuff, for them to get hit with, all these things. Same thing happened in Long Island. I remember guys I worked with, there was a big thing to buy up houses in Long Island. Everybody's going after to buy them. All of a sudden, got hit with the taxes. So they had to sell the houses and they lost like a lot of money. And it just caused the taxes kept going up and going up. New York is bad enough. Then you got the Village of Owego. I mean, it's gotta stop somewhere. They need help.
Julie?
I just want to make a point of clarification. So just, Laura, under risk rating 2.0, the cost of your flood insurance has nothing to do with the market value of your house, which means your flood insurance is going to go up even more because your flood insurance is going to be based on the cost of rebuilding your 1860s house. So
yeah, no, yeah, I know that. It's going to go up. They told me it was going to continue to go up for me for the next 6 years. And just for, I don't care anymore. I don't care what people know. So I'm just going to say it. I'm literally, this is the only way that I can afford to have my house, improve my house, fix my foundation. What I'm actually going to do is I'm clearing my mortgage and I will not have flood insurance at all. If I own the house, I don't have to have flood insurance. It means that the next time we get hit, though, I will have no coverage. But when we got hit in 2011, do you know what the grand total of FEMA help was for this house? $4,000.
Yeah,
4,000.
The law, please, just because, I have other things I have to do. I just want to make sure that everybody understands what really is happening here. So right now, the village is very close to being in compliance with the National Floodplain Insurance Program. We were out of compliance. There's one out of compliance building that is very far along the road to compliance. Once we are in compliance, and it's gonna happen, 1 out of 2 of the things has already been dealt with. I just talked to Delta Engineering this week. That means that FEMA says, yes, you can join the CRFs. Now, when you join the CRFs, insurance reductions can go from 5 to 45%. Very hard to get to 45%. Very few communities get that high. 20 to 25% is doable. It becomes a game of you get points for restricting development in the floodplain, you get points for education, you get points for all of the things that protect the people in the floodplain. One of those things that protects people in the floodplain is the compensatory storage action, which says you can't add mass to the floodplain and thereby increase the propensity of flooding your neighbors. So if we join the CRF, I don't have an exact point value number, but I'm guessing it would be somewhere around 100 points. So 500 points gives you a 5% decrease in flood insurance. So it is taking a concrete action to make the entire village more flood resilient. So that is what the action is. And because our property values are so much higher than our rebuild values are so much higher than our market values, we're going to get hammered really hard. And I think we need to take everything that we can get to try to bring insurance costs down and protect the people who live there.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Do we want to do? Right. Peter, do you want to do your things?
Peter Gordon, village resident. I'd like the board to, as one of the optimists for the future of the village, I'd like the board to consider the nomination of Alicia Vassalo as village historian. She's a lifelong resident and OFA grad, a member of past. Her mother was integral to getting Evergreen Cemetery put on the National Register. She was one of the go-to people for local lore. Alicia has already helped me save me months of research on some of my projects. She's on the Friends of Evergreen, among other things. And so she's already started working on a book of local stories. And so I'd like the board to consider Alicia as to fill the open historian position.
Okay.
Thank you.
What was your last name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A-S-I-L-O-W.
Sorry, can you say that again?
Susan Victor, A-S-I-L-O-W.
So I think it's how this works. I have to appoint her and then approve the board.
Sure. I don't recall. If you have the board approve it, then that would be fine.
Well, appoint her as historian, and I want that long down. And we need to vote on that. Does anybody have any questions for her or about her? If she's here. Mary? Brian?
Thank you.
Are you voting yes or no?
Oh, Marty, oh, yes, absolutely. I didn't realize you made, okay. Yes.
Yes. Laura?
Yeah.
Charles?
Yes.
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
And yes. Welcome.
Thank you.
Um,
Can I ask you a question? Did you ever figure out the dehumidifier?
No, we talked about that this morning. Fran was, I believe, going to bring it up in your trustee.
I just wanted to make sure that it was going to be brought to our attention.
Good job, Sam.
Thank you.
Don't forget.
Do you hear us talking about you, Jeff?
It's a sneaky place.
Let's see, should I do?
Thank you.
Are we done with other stuff? We are. So let me, I want to appoint Shane Taylor to the zoning board.
What's the term? So unless it's an expired term, it's an empty seat.
Thank you.
It is Jim Miller's term.
So for whatever the remaining term is for Jim Miller's.
Right. And what board is that for? The zoning.
There's like 2 houses down. I would feel more comfortable if other people met him at least. I mean, that's just I like the guy, but most of you have no idea who he is. I mean, even like if somebody else were to propose somebody, I'd like to at least meet the person before I vote it on. Just putting it out there as a trustee.
Yeah, I've had several people come and say that they would like to serve. And I would like them to be considered, not just the one person. I would like a whole bunch of people. And other people also were asked to gather names. And so I think we should hear who's gathered people before we vote on one.
Okay, so the way this works is I'm supposed to appoint them and then you guys approve them. So the only two that have contacted me are Shane Taylor and then somebody for the planning board. Trustee?
I also had several people approach me about these very potential serving on some of these boards. And so they're in the process of making the decision, and then I've recommended to them that they submit something, at least preliminary, something that they're interested. So that's my take also, is that we have a number of people that are interested from various people. So I think we should.
Rod may have a question. Is there any application process for any sort, or has there ever been?
Not that in the past, people have submitted letters of interest. And then we reviewed them. So that would be one great way that we've already done it in the past that we can use.
What kind of time frame are we looking at here?
Well, the issue is the board meet tomorrow and Wednesday.
I mean, I'm impressed if somebody appointed today and vote tomorrow.
Right.
Oh, and I to jump in, I did talk with the mayor briefly about that. I'm planning to talk to Christina and Wagner and who's the zoning board chair?
Jeff.
Oh, and Jeff. All right, great. One phone call.
I've already talked to both of them.
And the mayor's already talked to both of them. So I was going to recommend that because somebody newly appointed, they need time to get up to speed on both of these projects. So to move those meetings.
Back to my question. Time frame we're looking at to get in and out, I mean, so that we have some kind of a deadline to tell people.
Right, so we don't meet for 3 weeks. I was hoping to move those meetings to the week after Thanksgiving. So they were supposed to be the week of Thanksgiving. They moved them a week early. I was hoping to move them a week after, so the 30th and 1st.
So it is up to the zoning and planning boards themselves when they hold their meetings. And so I would like to think the boards, each board would give courtesy to whoever the new person appointed is as to like their schedule. And that's a big piece of it. And there is a lot of information, obviously, to look at. They really should be reviewing the recordings from the meetings,
Good thing is, yeah, it was for
which we do have. And, that's just a lot of sitting down. And I mean, I think one of those meetings went for 6 hours.
Yeah.
So
11:15.
something bad.
Yep.
I got one in there.
So anyway, where I was going is that even if you wanted to move it to the week after Thanksgiving, I think let the boards themselves kind of coordinate their schedule. And but to your point, I can say each of the boards would like to have a full complement of members as soon as possible.
So I guess if we set a deadline to nominate people by our next, just the week after.
Yeah, I mean, we could review the request letters and maybe they could come to the board and.
We can make a decision on the 6th, on the zoning and planning boards. The next meeting.
Remember that.
I don't think that really affects anything. Application wise, you have to want that makes it sit.
Yeah, I mean, the planning board is supposed to act within 62 days of the application being complete. I think that was in the end of October. So, well, that's when they submitted additional information.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's arguably the date that it could be considered complete, but they're blowing the 62-day timeline for the planning board's decision doesn't mean it's a default denial or approval. It's just that if somebody complains to a judge, the judge, let's say to the planning board, you really need to make a decision.
All right, so let's do that. So if we have people, bring them before the 6th, or on the 6th.
Well, I can send letters to you so you can get them
So
out
we
to
have that.
everybody.
So we got one from Shane, and I got one, John, or something. So.
I mean, as much as I like the guy, I don't want to choose just the first person that did the law.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, we have a ton of, I only got those two. So.
And I don't know where,
Yeah,
it's not this plan or whatever, but I just
We've
like
got
the
extra.
idea that there's village residents that will want to fill the holes.
You got residents willing to do stuff, make a new board.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you have extra applicants, there's other committees that need more members.
Are you willing to take notes and run a computer? I'm even on this.
Okay.
All right, so ignore what I said there. Well, bring stuff to me.
Could you send it to the office and we'll make copies of it to everybody? Right. Somebody had just a one-page little introduction to the article if you want to do. If they give it us, we'll go to you guys. We'll each a copy. And I would expect that next meeting, you can fix them. You don't want the people here, because then if you don't take them, that would. Just had the letter for that person.
Well, hang our cars or something.
What's that?
Hang our cars or something.
I will.
So I'll certainly say, I mean, I think if the board is interested in basically interviewing these people, I mean, you could have an executive session, invite them in individually to do an interview of them. I think that's an appropriate executive session topic. And then, kick them all out individually and then have a conversation in executive session about who to. Okay. Now, but so that being said, if there's a lot of people who want to interview, I would suggest you maybe start the meeting early for that purpose.
I guess let's see what the list is. Start with. That I need to, apparently it was bigger too, so, which is good.
Good.
So John, I see you're on, so I guess probably heard what we said. So you can hang around if you want, or not. Sounds like action will be taken at the next meeting. All right, so the Public comment, we did that. We don't have department head reports on the list. So.
My department has left, so I have left.
I would like to hire Garrett Stocks for the MEO position at the sewage treatment plant.
Say his name again, please.
Garrett Stocks,
Spell it.
Garrett.
Garrett.
Yep, Stocks, STOCKS. This is a full-time position. At the plant. Garrett is a OFA graduate, graduated a year ago. He's did some classes at BOCES for mechanic on automotive and small engines. So he's got some mechanical knowledge and background. He grew up a lot of his life on his grandparents' farm on the south side of Owego. So he's got knowledge of a lot of equipment that are around tractors and skid steers, loaders, backhoes, all that, running them all his life. So. There again, he just graduated, so I'm guessing 19 or 20.
Great.
As far as I know, you can't ask that in an interview anymore. It's not even on the application, just are you older
It's
than
not
18?
legal.
So, but, so,
He's restoring his Class B permit.
yes, he does have a Class B permit already. So he's already moving forward with a B license.
I don't think it's a CDL.
What's it gonna hire in that? What's the?
MOE.
MOE.
E,
MOE.
motor equipment operator.
Okay.
What's the probation period for him?
I would suggest 6 months. The contract says that they have to have the B license by the end of their probation.
Did you say he already has that?
He's got the permit, so he's already working on it, but just scheduling and everything with everything that's going on right now, it takes quite a while to get. So I would recommend 6 months for the license mainly.
What hourly wage do you think?
Starting salary 15 an hour, 15 per hour.
I'd like to make a motion that we hire Garrett Stocks into the sewer department as an MEO at $15 per hour with a 6-month probation period.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion on that one. Fran,
Yes.
Rusty,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Carl,
Yes.
Was that me?
that's you, yeah.
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
and yes.
That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Wow, that's easy. We got Jeff on the line.
I don't have anything additional.
Yeah, we did have a question for you about the
Dehumidifier.
at the cemetery.
Yeah, dehumidifier for the chapel.
Yeah, it's in there.
You put it in?
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
That's it.
I did have a question, Jeff. I noticed a lot of low-lying branches over sidewalks. If I'm hitting my head, they're kind of low. Is there anything we can do about getting these people to trim them up some? Specifically at church, temple?
We'll take care of them.
Thank you, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff, somebody did contact me about that same issue. I don't remember where they were. I told them to call you guys. I don't think they called you now.
Oh, no, I haven't got any calls about that, but we'll, I'll send guys out and we'll trim whatever we need to.
There's a lot of construction there, so be careful.
Yeah. A lot of construction everywhere.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yep.
Next thing. So I don't think we don't have any reports from police, fire.
We do not have,
Robin was here, didn't have nothing.
we do not have anything from the chief, either chief, that's more sensitive. There are things that are, I think those should not be brought to the board that you continue.
Yeah, Robin was here, she dropped out, but didn't have any report.
Bills.
We have pay apps for the new building. It's our next door, but it's not next door here. Rocket flew away.
Everybody get copies? I think I get that.
Yeah, there's two for Delta, one for Slavic, one for McCaskey, one for Edger, and one for Nelson.
I'd like to motion for the payment of those.
Okay.
I'll second that. You're still rusty.
Anybody have any questions about it? Vote on them. Fran?
Yes.
Rusty? Yes. Laura?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
And yes. We're done.
And sort of relating to that, you wanted to know why the DPW is open.
Oh, yes, so the treasury, right?
So what we want to do is we want to move $546,326.09 from the state aid over to the new municipal building line item. Now, get the money out of it. And this month. We get a motion. I gave it to you. It's just Rusty.
Got an email, which was probably a response to my email, I haven't checked the email.
Yeah. The mayor did some research and that's what we do.
DPW budget was, or expenditures were over by about 500,000. I saw that 500,000 in the state aid, so I figured it related. And
Motion to move that.
apparently it's the monies that we've used to pay the new bill.
You see it, Chief Wade?
Same as I got same thing.
I got Jerry. I heard Jerry.
Oh.
You had this one?
It doesn't have the actual toll on it though, and that's what he wanted. Yeah, it says,
So I asked him, look at it.
it says the same thing. Where are you reading from?
Oh,
Oh, here. All right.
Thank you, Rodney.
That's the total number. Thank you.
Okay, so the motion, I'm gonna make the motion, and how are we gonna move this one, Rodney?
It's just journal. The journal. Takes it out of Jeff, put it in the hole.
What's it, this other line? So I will move the $546,326.09. From 83,089, state aid to 80,1494, union 493.
A second.
as long as it fixes the report on that. All right, so we'll vote on that, Fran?
Yes.
Rusty? Yes. Laura?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
And yes. The treasurer's report now? That was my only thing in the treasurer's report.
Yeah, you can trade.
Everybody get my little summary? Everything looks good. EMS is like 40,000 ahead. That's mainly because their revenue's on track and their spending is that much under.
Let's stay off the highway. It should be good.
Well, I don't know, you know, streets.
Move to approve the treasurer's report.
A second.
Any questions, comments about it? Fran?
Okay, I have questions on the bank statement now.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you're voting on
Yep, that's-
everything
that's the whole thing, yeah.
all at once. Well, it was about a month ago, I sent an email to everybody on board that the bank statement balances needs to be reorganized because everything is scattered all over. And you really cannot look at what the village funds are and the EMS funds are, or the sewer department funds are, or the cemetery committee funds are, because they're scattered all over. You can't look at it all together.
So I think the chemicals is together, right?
What's that?
This is the way they organize and buy.
I don't know. Can you stop in the office and help Cindy get them know where you want?
Okay. Okay, and I also am questioning, what is the 11,962 drawn out of the Evergreen Provincial Care Fund?
That was for the trees. We took money out of the.
Okay, so that's the interest you've taken off the account?
Yeah.
Okay, so that went directly to pay for the trees.
We put that in just. And we've already paid for that.
Okay, well, all right, I'll go and talk with the gals in the office, but I mean, as I also mentioned, the funding of the perpetual care fund and the capital improvements fund is not happening as state law has set up. I said that in my email. It's section 1507 of trust funds for the cemeteries. And, well, I can give everybody, I made copies of that email message if you want to review it. It's all of the funds for the cemetery do not belong going into the perpetual care fund. Only a small portion of it does.
Thank you.
Yeah, when there's,
We don't really get much funds from the cemetery. Cemetery is full. We're not getting.
well, you're making deposits into the fund. I mean, you got to get money someplace.
Not a big deposit.
9,954.
That would be interest on what we're making. They're not really, they're not generating much money. Cemetery. So they don't have any, they're basically full.
I know, well, it is full up. I mean, plots are all sold.
Yeah.
So I mean, it can't, until all the plots are full,
Well,
you cannot take principal out of the perpetual care fund.
we're not looking to fill
I know, but as far as monies,
what's that? Stop.
monies that come in from the interment and interment into plots, only $35 of that is supposed to go into the perpetual care fund. The balance should be going into the working fund for the cemetery. All right.
We'll check into that. I don't know how much I was. Let me look into it.
Okay, I mean, you can get copies of the law right off the computer. What state law is, I gave you the nutshell in the email from a couple weeks ago.
They have a copy. I don't know how to do that.
Well, I'll give you a copy of my email message.
Am I on the email?
Yeah, you got a copy of it before, or you should have. As far as, I've only got one copy of the law that's off from New York State, as far as what percentage of funds go into which accounts.
Let's see, okay. Let me do some research on that.
Okay.
That's 35 now.
Anything else with the treasurer's report? Can we approve it? Oh, we're gonna have a motion in a second. So we'll vote on that. Brad?
I'm gonna say no at this time. I don't agree. It's set.
Laura?
Yeah.
Charles?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. Okay. Let's do minutes. Do the minutes.
I motion to approve the minutes for November 1st as submitted.
I'll second that.
Comments on those? On those, Fran,
I'll have to abstain, I wasn't here, so.
Rusty,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Charles,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
and yes. Next thing, we'll move right along, trustee reports. Fran, what do you got?
Well, one thing I wanted to bring up with, for the EMS, they are putting in, applying for more grants for lifts for the other ambulances. So hopefully we'll see what comes of that.
Okay.
And yeah, with the Friends of the Owego Evergreen, they are separate from the board's committee, but they are progressing with, they put in their application for the repair of the stained glass windows in the chapel. They're holding off on the rest of the grant until spring because they're having problems getting quotes from contractors, so they're holding off till spring.
Okay.
That's all.
Rusty, you got anything?
Not at this time.
Laura, what do you got?
Yes, I would like to bring up the flood damage prevention law, or the compensatory storage, because it's just a major important thing for our village to do, to protect our residents and our structures, our tax base. There's people who want to come in and buy houses that we do our best to get ourselves into the CRS program, the community rating system, so that we could lower insurance rate by percentages for everybody in our village, for everybody who pays insurance and has properties or businesses here, and our property insurance ourselves for our flood insurance is quite high. And even for the county as well, for their buildings here. And the savings that the village can find off of entering into the CRS can offset some of the time of the hours that our employees have to work in filing the paperwork, having all of our information correct and filed and recorded is a major issue. And it's a lot of work and they need support. And so this would help pay possibly for an assistant that could help us receive more savings in the future. So the compensatory storage, it protects everybody who's here from unregulated development. So what it does is if somebody's going to be building, they have to show that there's not going to have any negative impact, or they need to go through a review to see why they can't meet this. And I feel that's just the way that we always have expected projects to have to go through those regulations and get a higher amount of overview and that it really matters when these large projects happen. That there is some way that we have the community gets a say in what happens for our community. And this law was recommended by the county in their hazard mitigation plan for our long-term planning. We've tried many times in the past to get into this program, but we weren't taking it very seriously. Now, we've reached that time where we have to take it seriously because the National Floodplain Insurance Program switched to risk rating 2.0, and the insurance rates for everyone are affected. At the start, it seems like a small amount of number of an increase because it's just the start of the government glide where they raise our increase, our rate 18% until we reach our actuary rate. So it seems really small from the start, but we'll be able to save potentially each of our residences, our property owners, thousands of dollars a year in their insurance costs by getting ourselves into the system so that we can the rates. It starts out low at 5%, but it's well worth it that we take on this endeavor. Many citizens have been working to clear up our past violations. We've been out of violations for floodplain for 3 years or more. And we have now caught up with clearing all our violations or addressing them, which is very good. And we're primed to get into the system. Step Souls has had a meeting with one of the companies, the software companies that helps with the program to get the information for mapping and elevation certificates and all the things that we need for listing on each of the properties. There's at least, I think there's 2 other companies that they're going to look at for getting quotes on the computer process. But those are things that also add into our points. So having our DPW already having gone over that add additional points for our entry into the program. And in the past, there were some questions about how many points we gather for having the law and what we get for different things. The base level of points that you need to enter into the program are 500 points, and you get a 5% premium reduction. And we've already heard from FEMA that we're primed to get in at that level. And how it works with getting these points. There's 19 credible activities under 4 categories, and we got to start at the bottom. You can't skip over and do things at the top without meeting the bottom basics. So We can't get credit for our warning response system until we've met basic. So even though there are some things that we have further down the line, not much in place, we can't get to those loftier things, credit for those exactly yet. So what we're working at is public information activities. Because of the times in the past, we've already gathered and collected a lot of stuff and education for that. I have in my living room a whole tote bag from when Kevin Millar ran a campaign. And so I've already got lots of stuff that we can pass out. And public information is easier to do. And we talk to insurance agents and other members of the community about practices for our homes, how we can get it's just sort of methods for safeguarding your homes, removing or elevating some of your systems. And there's different tricks that you can use to, even if you can't elevate your home, there are some things that you can do in your home to get yourself in a better situation by having your utilities a little bit up higher, by possibly filling in your basement space to not have a full space, and your utilities that can help. Getting elevation certificates for properties, that can help. And so the 400 series, that's the public information is the 300 series. The 400 series is mapping and regulation. And so this covers our laws, that we, not just that we have the laws, we have to show that we enforce the laws. So our history of non-compliance isn't good, but we're clearing it up. And so we need all the help we can get. We need to bring back this law so we can get these points, we can get into this program. The mapping and regulation, it covers mapping areas not shown on the FIRM, preserving open space, protecting natural floodplain functions, enforcing higher regulatory standards, and managing stormwater. It's increased for growing communities. Some of the other point series are for flood damage reduction activities, which is retrofitting structures, and then warning and response. That also includes levees and dams, not just like a system of phone calls. And then the points can really, they have a wide range. So specifically for the higher regulatory standards, the maximum possible points for that category, 2,042. The average points earned for that category is 270. So on average, we're looking to get between 200 to 300 points for portions in this section. Months ago, we went over this with the county and FEMA for, we got more detailed analysis of how we could meet different sections. But the largest section at that time was for our good laws that we had at the time. And I would like to bring back that law so we can get into, so we can have our points, so we can get into the CRS system. They tell you to go with the average and not with not with like the maximum possible points. And they say that they show all the calculation determinations about how they make that. And they say that even if you have a strong law, if only a small portion of your municipality is in the floodplain, it doesn't matter, so they wouldn't receive a lot of points. But our village is situated where 80% of our village was underwater in a large flood. And so a larger percent of our properties are really subjected to greater coverage and improvement by getting into the system. So we'll show possibly a little bit better because we're protecting more of our property than places that they notated that like have tried to get things through where they don't. It's I guess what I'm trying to say is they're taking hard, real looks, and they're not falling for small tricks, like saying there's a law and not enforcing it. Doesn't work. So we need to start taking our approach about flooding and these things that affect our economy of our village more seriously. And I really want to get started into getting into the CRS program. And this is a step we need to take. Back when the law was removed, some people had issues thinking that this would affect the small homeowner and their properties, that they would be able to fix their house after a flood if the elevation collapsed, or to add on a porch or a garage. And we did hear from Jeff Souls that this doesn't affect small properties. He said something if it was under an acre or under a half an acre. It didn't even come forward to being under consideration. And we know, I mean, I saw Charles was worried that people wouldn't be able to get dirt for gardens. And now we know that that is not the case. And people doing small projects are not impacted. And so those concerns have been met, that it won't impact our people and our structures here, that they're not going to be able to make improvements or not have any building in the future.
Do you have any data on that? Because what we got from FEMA said on the same footprint. That means a garage, an addition, a porch, it's not on the same footprint. I didn't see anything about under an acre.
I didn't see the acre or under an acre, but Jeff Souls said it at the two or more meetings ago, because he was talking to somebody. So I guess we could ask him for clarification on that portion. The state guidance came back saying that that line could be added or didn't.
Had to be added, or they don't approve it.
No, they said that that line did not have to be needed to be added in, because the existing structures footprints were all, like, you don't, if you're rebuilding in your footprint or existing stuff. It doesn't, you're not building new. You don't need an application for, well, you need a building permit, but you don't, when you're not building, when you're operating on an existing space, there's no compensatory storage implications
On that exact footprint.
on your footprint, yeah.
Change that footprint at all, even by a foot, you need to do it. That's what they said,
I believe that is my understanding. If it's anything new or expands the footprint of something.
right?
The only thing I would say to that is given the size of properties in the village, if somebody put a really, modest addition, the compensatory storage requirements would inherently be very modest. Because if they're only changing the parameter of their, house by 12 feet by 15 feet or something, it's probably not an insurmountable thing to do, right? Because our lots are pretty packed. There's not a ton of room to put enormous buildings. If you want to build a brand new detached garage, that's a new structure in the floodplain, it's going to have to comply, as it should have to, right? Because
So someone mentioned filling in a homeowner's basement earlier. How would that be treated?
Well, actually, risk rating 2.0 right now has de-incentivized filling in basements, which honestly makes no sense to me in terms of flood mitigation losses. But right now, they have taken, from an insurance standpoint, they've taken away the motivation to do it. I don't understand that, but they have. I mean, if you fill in a basement on an existing footprint, it's an existing footprint, so that's within the exempted piece.
Yeah, I found out through all this, apparently filling in the basement has always been okay, because they assume the water goes around your house and not through your house. No, that's not the real case, but.
Yeah.
You said there needs to be a minimum of 500 points in order to apply
To enter.
To enter,
What is
yeah.
our current level?
We're not in it.
We're not in it to have any.
If we were.
Well, if we were, what is our current point level?
We don't have a current point level.
You have to, we're not that far along in the process. We have to fully qualify to get in it. We had 2 meetings with software people for 2 different software packages, and the one company said that you can get close to your 500 points just by using their software and doing all the documentation. I need to verify that, but I haven't made those calculations yet. But I would assume that enough could be gathered that we could get to the 500, just to the 5%. But that's kind of the next step. The first step is getting in compliance and knowing you comply, and that's gonna happen very, very shortly. So I don't think anybody in the village has an exact answer for you yet, Fran. But you have to start somewhere. You just have to start doing the things that get you the points to get you in. But I don't think anybody can exactly answer your question.
Yeah. Well, we still have one business right now that is not in compliance. So we're not qualified till that is satisfied.
But it's a very, very cooperative ongoing situation, and the mitigation work is happening. It's all underway. I talked with Delta Engineering this week about it. It's all happening. It's gonna be done shortly. So that's not an obstacle anymore because it's a very cooperative.
But until that is complete, we won't really be able to apply.
That is true. That is correct.
Which is ongoing, but yeah, you're right. If we do this tonight, it doesn't make us get in tonight.
Yeah, we can't.
Are you gonna make a motion or something, or?
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure that I covered these things that I wanted to bring up. All right, yeah. So I would like to make a motion. Let me. I'd like to make a motion approving the local law number 2, entitled, a local law amending chapter 117 entitled flood damage prevention. And I would like to use the language that the state suggested that we alter after their emailing. And I will, so everybody has that language. I will just read it out loud. This is paragraph 3. It says, whenever any portion of a floodplain is authorized for development, the volume of space occupied by the authorized fill or structure below the base flood elevation shall be compensated for and balanced by a hydraulically equivalent volume of excavation taken from below the base flood elevation at or adjacent to the development site. All such excavations shall be constructed to drain freely to the water course. No area below the water line of a pond or other body of water can be credited as a compensating excavation. Notwithstanding any of the foregoing, repair
Where's the elevation?
well, thank you. Notwithstanding any of the foregoing, the elevation, repair, or replacement of residential structures and accessory structures within the previous footprint thereto shall be exempt from the requirements of this subsection.
That's the motion. I'm just waiting for you to get done. I'd like to second that.
If the board is going to move forward and approve, then the board does need to review seeker, of course, prior to making a final action.
You can start the seeker process.
I don't remember if this was a type or type 1 or unlisted actions, presumably type 1.
It's a part 1, and I do have it filled out from the village from, you know, we got it.
Great. So
I think
we
you
got
all
18
probably,
questions to run through.
you could probably pull it up in your emails, or if you printed out the seeker forms for the other laws that you've got, you can follow along anyway.
Those are the questions?
Well, and I think this is the local law. The review process of this, we of course went through this exercise. We've gone through this exercise a lot, but we specifically went through it when removing this language. The purpose of this is to add it back in order to, as Laura has been describing, provide some stronger regulatory regime, which inherently would be, I think, arguably more protective of the environment. The mayor expressed an opinion that the answers would be no to all 18 of the questions. Does anyone on the board have a particular one of those 18 questions that you'd like to review, or just discuss, what areas of potential environmental concern do you identify?
I think it was environmental structures.
I don't feel like the members of the board are well educated, informed on just exactly what the law is and what the secret steps are. I mean, just saying back to what it was, that doesn't.
As a politician, I'm gonna say something that usually doesn't happen. I made a mistake. When I took this law out, I was misinformed, or at least took it the wrong way as to where the residents were not protected. And when we submitted this and the state came back and said, no, it was always assumed you were protected, I felt like an idiot. But if that was the case, I had that information up front, I would have never voted to vote. And that's just me going on record saying, I did not do my due diligence. Now it's been brought to my attention, I want to rectify it. And that's where I'm at.
So Ron, I will say that law was originally worded. I hear what the state folks said. I'm not sure that I agree with them, that the way that they read the law. I think what they're doing is interpreting language in the law in the way that they've just described. But that is not how specifically the law read. Because it did read, if you need a building permit, then you have to provide compensatory storage. So they're interpreting the law, and obviously they're the state agency that promulgates it. I would like to think a court would defer to some opinions of theirs, but to my knowledge, there hasn't been a court case litigating all of this. And so I can tell you there was in the way that the law was worded, so that the way that we did, I think, was also a reasonable reading of it. Knowing the state's opinion now, that's helpful. Adding, like, this is not just a straight add back in, because it does include a specific residential exemption for building within the same site that you were previously. Right. So it's helpful.
The assumption that we were always protected.
Correct.
And now you can read it in there.
Right. And I'm much rather black and white than it's implied. I don't like implied. So if anything comes out of this, that one sentence, I feel like it was worth the struggle if this happens to go through.
The secret process, we went over it when it went out, and I believe every question would be still marked the same for bringing it back in, and we already do have it filled out. So if there are no changes, we can maybe just approve it as it's already filled.
Right.
Okay. I motion that we
Make a negative declaration.
make a negative declaration for the type 1 seeker.
And we're in the middle of the motion to approve the local law. So Rusty will probably be the parliamentarian here and point out that the motion pending needs to be somehow withdrawn, while the new motion to make a negative declaration on seeker is.
Okay. I will suspend my first motion, bring up the negative, to vote on a negative declaration for the type 1 seeker.
Which is saying what?
Now we have to vote on the seeker.
Now we're just voting on the secret.
The secret has 18, can I speak? The secret has 18 points. We had passed the secret before on that. And we said that there wouldn't have any impact on land, no impact on geological impact on surface water, impact on, we said it wouldn't impact any of those things, except for 2, we did say yes on that secret, take it out. And that was impact on flooding, we said yes. Now to put it back in, it will not have impact on flooding, so that would be a no on this new seeker. I mean, we also said yes on impact on historical and archaeological resources, which was yes to take it out, but it would be a no to put it back in. you want to see that? 18.6. So what was your motion?
For negative declaration.
On the 18.6.
Correct. Now, just a second. All right, so we have to vote on that? Yeah. So let's vote, this vote is just a negative declaration on secret, right? Anything else, correct? So it has no environmental impact. Fran?
At this point, I'm gonna say no.
Rusty? Yes. Charles?
I have to agree with Fran. My education with all of this only extends as far as watching episodes of Law and Order. I just can't keep up with the jargon on this. So I'm going to abstain from any vote of yes or no until I'm properly educated.
No.
Ron?
Yes.
I vote yes, that it has no effect. So advance.
Just for everybody's knowledge, SEEKR stands for State Environmental Quality Review.
No secret, after she had to understand you.
Yeah, and we do this for every
local law.
every single local law, and even the projects that go before the planning board. Any project that goes before the planning board or the zoning board, projects, homeowner projects that go before OHPC, have to do the seeker. It's not, it's just a standard review that we're required to go through.
So now would you like to go back to the motion to approve the local law?
Yeah, I would like to motion to approve local law number 2 for the flood damage prevention law.
I'll second that.
The motion and a second, do we have any discussion on this?
Well, just, my comment is, right now, the village is out of compliance because of one particular, business. And until we're in compliance, I don't think we can say that we need to change this law.
I would respectfully disagree with you, Frank. I mean, I had that stance in the beginning and I did more research and I feel like waiting for Whitesman to do his due diligence is going to hurt us in the
But
long run.
we won't be able to put in the application until that is done.
Take the CRS out of the equation, the law should be put back in, even if we don't get into CRS, because we need to protect ourselves. I mean, and I was misinformed or I read it wrong or whatever the case, but I can admit that I made a mistake. And I just don't want people to vote on this with ignorance rather than education. Because it seems like there's a lot of people that just don't quite get the concept, which is fine, but I would rather have somebody educated vote than just vote out of a sense of responsibility, I guess.
Yeah, well, I do feel that we need the flood mitigation law, but until the village is in compliance, I won't support changing it.
We've got about 2 days before we won't have a choice, and we can't put this back. It's been almost 60 days since our public hearing, we have to make a decision.
No, it can wait, it can be brought up again.
Timing on this?
Well, to Fran's point, it could be brought up again. Then another public hearing
There's
could
no
be scheduled.
Stated deadline.
The process could be started over. There's no,
The deadline is in like 2 days for us to act on this public hearing.
that's correct. I would say that's correct. I would strongly recommend another public hearing. If it fails today or there's no action today and you wanted to consider it again to pass it again.
I mean, I just want everybody to be on the same page that we will go through this process again, with the irate people and everything, which is fine, that's what I signed up for. But I just would like to add in that irate conversation, 90% of people didn't even live in the village. That I found very disturbing. All the people supported taking this law out didn't even live here. It had no impact on their lives, their houses, their friends, their family. So I null and voided all that because you have no business talking to me. You have no tax base, no houses, no land to worry about, but you want to put in a building which had nothing to do with the law per se, but they made it about the law. Which I found just aggravating to no end. That's why I didn't speak to them that meeting, because they were idiots.
Well, you're debating something else.
Yeah, I'm debating that
I'm not
public
gonna
hearing.
go
they had. I thought that public hearing we had to reimplement the law at that time was just ridiculous. I found it embarrassing as a board member that the public would even act in that fashion. That's why I never said a word during that section, because I could have gave them bars of gold and it would have been wrong. So I just go, what's the point? And I don't want to sway the decision one way, but it's your decision. Absolutely. I don't want you to feel like I'm bullying you. I mean, I just want to
I'm
get it off
saying,
my
I
chest.
agree
because-
that we have the law once we are in compliance. But at the moment, the village is not in compliance.
So if we get in compliance and we go to another public hearing, would you possibly have a different?
If we are in compliance, that would be a different story.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
So I'll say my opinion, I support taking this law out, and I still support it not being in. Nothing to do with anything. Everybody loves to tag the CRS. It has nothing to do with CRS, besides it gets us more points. And it gets way over restrictive. The DEC and FEMA both told us to take it out. They know what they're doing. We don't. I mean, we do, we don't. Not to that level. There's other safety checks in there. They still gotta pass site plan review. They still gotta answer all the same questions. They still gotta answer all the secret questions. We're more than protected. And it's just way over restricted. And that came from DEC and FEMA, not from me. That's what I refer to when flooding things. That's my opinion.
Which is the great thing about a board.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
I wouldn't put this back in ever. I think we can get those same points other ways and still get our discounts. Kristen?
I'm quite interested about how that came from DEC and FEMA. I'm quite interested to know how DEC and FEMA decided that they wanted to look at the Village of Owego code book and page section 117.14.3 and come to us and say, you should take this out of your thing. Although, even though all of our flood mitigation things say we should, it's good to have it in there. I've got it right there on our county and ours. It's good to have it in there. It's a good thing for the village. But somehow FEMA decided to get a hold of us to advise us to take that out. Boy, they must have been bored that day when they had to get a hold of us to do that. Well, how did they ever come to that?
I never.
No, I'm not implying that you guys.
Well,
I'm not implying that you guys.
right now.
I'm Mike. I'm not implying that you asked me to do that. Somebody else asked me to do that. Somebody else asked them to do that because they didn't just come to us to take that out. Somebody asked them. And that somebody had an objective. That somebody didn't talk to the village about their objective. They went to FEMA to try to get FEMA to come to, and DC to come to the village. They didn't talk to the village about that at all. That's the smell on this. So this idea that FEMA just got hold of us and said, you should take that out, actually, they didn't say that. They actually gave us a number of options. If we had somehow wanted to do something with that, they gave us some options of what we might be able to do. As if, once again, we had called them and said, we need some options about what to do with this paragraph of this law, because we're just flummoxed and we don't know what to do. Which, of course, we did not get a hold of FEMA about that. Once again, somebody else got a hold of FEMA about that. And of course, the village and their taxpayers and their residents and their board weren't included in that. That's the smell.
I can only tell you the emails that I got. I don't know.
Yeah.
I got them. If I got them right.
Once again,
I can tell you what I got.
you didn't do it. We know you didn't do it. We know who did do it.
I also, yeah, I went look through the emails to make sure, what did I miss? And I definitely looked over when we got that proposal to change the flood law. And that email came March, there was 2 emails. One was March 31st. One was like a day or 2 before, let's see, March 29th. So, okay, so let's make sure the date. So the first email on March 29th, that was from Jeff Soul saying, it's come to our attention that the law is more stringent. It's not the state saying that we have to remove it. The state never said to us, we need to remove this law, it's too strict. They came with some knowledge. Here's some options. You don't have to have such a strong law. Here's some options. You could remove it totally. You could alter it. You could alter it with Skinny Atlas's language. And so they gave us this information of here's like a whole bunch of options. And we all received these options in our email. But further in it, you can see that Elaine Jardine from Team Tioga, Leanne Tinney from Economic Development, and our code enforcement officer. I'll wait for the train to go by so you can hear me. Okay. Our code enforcement officer and from the state DEC called Brianna Worley, they were having Zoom meetings in March, specifically about the compensatory storage clause. March 22nd, they were asking for, hey, we forgot one critical question during our Zoom meeting. We need to have an answer today. Can the Village of Owego and compensatory storage clause change the words at or adjacent to the site to somewhere within the floodplain within the Village of Owego boundaries? Can we get an answer today? So that was really weird to find that buried in there, but we all did get that in our emails. And then 2 days later, we got an email. It's entitled INHS, which stands for Ithaca Neighborhood Housing Services, Liberty Street / Temple Street Housing Project Concept Presentation. And this was a rendering of the project for the big low-income housing project. And there's one very strong line in here that I'd like to read out loud. The amendment to the flood damage prevention law will help make this project a go. And so it really ties the reason why the flood damage prevention law was brought up for our consideration. We didn't have any troubles with the law. It came up out of the blue, and I can see why through these emails. So, Mayor, I know that you are on the land bank and you are on Tag Opportunities boards, which would be the project manager for this project. And you had a lot of knowledge that this project was coming up. Well,
What's that?
I stayed on this project on both sides. I didn't attend the meetings. All the records are public because of this.
so when I serve on a board, and it involves the village or something, I show up to the meeting and I pay attention. And if I have a conflicting interest, what I do is I state it out loud and I don't vote on it. And you're not stating these, you're not disclosing these things. And you're saying that you just didn't go to those meetings because of a huge project in the village of Owego that's going to be the topic. You didn't show up to the meeting.
Yep.
And you want to tell us that that's okay because you weren't in attendance? That's not how this works. You're supposed to be serving everybody here, serving the best interests of the village. And when you have multiple boards you're serving, you just need to disclose it so that,
I think it's been disclosed to everybody.
okay.
You know, Laura,
Well, the reason I'm getting to is the law would not have been put on the agenda if it wasn't for this purpose of those projects. Because it says,
did
look at it,
everybody
it
have
says,
that?
Are you accusing me of something?
I'm saying this law was brought up for a purpose, and we can see it in these emails. And I think maybe you were used, the pilot project. We never got to consider it. It didn't get on our agenda. But it got on the town of Owego's agenda 2 or more months before we knew about it. So everybody knew about this.
We have no
But
say.
we have no
Pilot.
say.
Say pilot. Has nothing to do with our board.
We have no
Approve of you badgering Mike.
I'm
You
not
know,
badgering Mike.
if you want to go accusing, you as commissioner of the zoning and planning board should have told us that there was someone on that board that was out of compliance. But you didn't tell us that. Of residency compliance. You are the commissioner of those boards. You did not tell us that.
This has come up several times in past meetings about zoning and planning.
People being out of compliance with residency, it just came up just a few weeks ago.
So
And you should have told us as commissioner, you should have told this board about that before.
So Fran, if I can interject, I think
Yeah,
it's important for all the board members to recall right now, right? We're in the middle of a motion. I think there's been a motion. Rod, tell me.
There is a motion, I'm sure, and
I believe there's been a motion to approve this local law. There was a second. This is a discussion about whether or not to approve the local law. And I think, Fran, certainly your comments to Laura about the zoning and planning residency issue unrelated to
Well,
local
she's
law discussion.
badgering the
And Laura, I
mayor,
would
same,
also say,
same difference.
it appears you're straying outside of the discussion relating to whether this local law should be approved. If you have a particular issue with the mayor unrelated to whether this local law should be adopted or not, there's the trustees report time that you can bring up those issues. I just want to try to keep us on track.
Thank you. We'll get to the mayor to decide these things. Motion. Thank you for
I'm guessing that it came up for a reason that was pushed on us. And I I think the mayor should abstain from voting because of the way that the law came up to be removed in the first place.
So
It might be, people might consider with this knowledge of why the law was removed, knowing that there was purposes behind it. And maybe it wouldn't appear very good to have action and further action in it. And subject matter.
So we have a motion on the table and we have strayed and we need to, if we want to have discussions on other issues then we'll have the proper time and place and we should take care of this motion that's on the table and have further discussion on it. I'm not commenting on your stuff with quality, but you should do the motion. And if you want to continue with something you want to say, we should do it after the motion.
What are we doing?
I have to take this.
You're calling for the vote.
Can we talk about other stuff after this? Okay, I'm asking that we vote on this motion.
On the law,
Yes.
passing the law. That's what's going on.
Yes.
Fran,
No.
Rusty,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Charles,
This last hour has only given me a headache. I don't feel comfortable voting yes or no at this moment.
No.
Ron,
Yes.
abstain.
So we only have 3 votes.
Do I have just 2 yeses?
I voted yes.
3 yes.
Let's see, Ryan. Okay.
What did Charles say?
You abstain.
You want to vote?
Abstain.
Okay.
Rusty, we go.
Oh, I find it, just one quick little comment, I find it very interesting that we just passed a marijuana law on almost no input, no anything, not knowing anything, not knowing what the people want. Where we had 12 people speak here, 8 of them had economic interests in the matter, and yet we decided that we had to pass it, and we had to pass it tonight. We couldn't spend any more time on it. We had to do it. Now we have this law, which seems much more important, but we can't pass it because we don't know enough yet. We can't possibly rush into this. We could rush into the marijuana because we had to do that right now, but we couldn't possibly rush into this. That's it.
I would like to make a comment. The whole discussion is not about this law, and we all know it. The undercurrent is about the property development, and so that's why I am saying, no, I'm not, I cannot go
I have
along.
no interest in that property one way or the other. I'm interested in my house. For you to speculate on my purpose is wrong with you. I would never speculate
Well,
on
it
yours.
came from right across the table.
It did, and I agreed to it. So now you're saying that I have something in bed with this thing, and I'd like to know your.
I'm just saying, these folks over here are the ones
You
who made
said
the accusation that the change in the law was because of the property development.
We've never heard that out of my mouth ever.
Change in the law was absolutely brought together by the county.
We've never heard it from
They have the right to have DEC look at our laws.
Whatever,
But this board is ridiculous. If this is how it's gonna run, I'm just gonna step away. I will not take allegations that are baseless against the mayor in a public format. That is just so unprofessional. You attacking people, the people attacking you from online, going after Rusty, this has become a circus. It's embarrassing. This is just ridiculous. This is not, we ran great for 3.5 years, and all of a sudden we're falling apart at the seams, and I don't know what the heck is going on here, but it's just embarrassing. And I want nothing to do with this.
Mayor, maybe follow along the agenda.
Yeah, we're on Laura, the trustee reports.
Okay, I will continue my report.
There's a planning and zoning board meeting this week. You going?
Planning meeting is tomorrow night. The planning board meeting is tomorrow night, scheduled for 7 p.m. And we can expect to watch for any notifications that might change concerning what, that they only have 4 people on seats. But we'll wait to hear. And the zoning also would be for Wednesday at 6 p.m., which people could look to possibly move. And then the next OHPC meeting is that first Thursday in December, and it's scheduled for 7 p.m., 20 Elm Street. And that's my report.
You got any trustee report? You're moving around there.
You talking to me?
Yeah, you got any trustee report?
No, other than what Jeff has submitted in his report, I have nothing to add to that. I just want to thank all the residents and dedicated business owners that showed up in person to the meeting tonight. Thank you for your attendance. It's good to see a sense of normalcy in the meetings showing up in person, although I'm stuck here at work. But that's all I have to say. I hope these differences that we are experiencing as a board can be resolved in a manner so that we can move forward and do what's right for our residents.
Dan, you got anything?
No, nothing.
Well,
I talked to the construction guys on Temple Street today. It's going to be about another week before that's wrapped up. I mean, it's dangerous. It's down to one lane. I almost got hit by a tractor today pulling out of there with no flagger. I don't know who's responsible here, whether it's Suez or, but, and it doesn't help with the judge parking his car right there at the police station. I understand his point, but it's dangerous.
I mean, whoever they hire.
You come around that red light, even coming straight forward on that road, there's not enough room for 2 cars. Either shut down the road or don't.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know where to go with this because it's dangerous.
People are parking right by the church there.
There's no warning there either when you come around.
Oh, it's quite dangerous. There was cones around the corner on the north for a day that disappeared. So, I mean, the hope is that within the week they'll be gone, but hopefully nobody gets killed in that week.
Yeah, if somebody's going north on North Avenue, right, say that turn. They have no idea what's ahead of them.
If somebody's waiting at the red light, go, there's nowhere to go.
I did speak to them in person. They told me a week pending any issues. Take that at what it's worth.
Right, I heard again this week.
Yeah.
Or this week. Yeah.
But that's all I've got.
It's a mess. All right, communications. Anything? We have a DRI kickoff meeting with Fox December.
Well, 10 days.
10 o'clock.
At the DPW building?
No, at the clerk's office. It's just us and them and the state figure out what we're doing next. So,
Do we have an opinion on it, or do we just tell them?
well, no, it's how did they start work on how they did it.
Okay.
So we all don't need to be there really.
Have we heard back from, have we heard back from the North Avenue Art Park Design Connect team for their project that they were gonna finish? And is there, can you reach out to Abby to find out when that will be?
I won't be part of it. That's the only communications I got. And Lights on the River's coming up, that same day, I think.
Yeah.
First Friday.
This is in the village, no Saturday.
What time is the fireworks?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock?
The officer might know.
8 o'clock.
Mayor's report. Got nothing besides, I know it's there, this might be right in the resignation, but it's not official though. I'm not gonna lose my job on my family over this.
What did you say?
So you might be finding somebody who left these meetings. All right, I think public comment. All good.
What do you got to say?
All good in the hood?
Yeah, we all good on the, what's your opinion, man?
The CP will be done probably by the end of next week. We will meet with the new people running.
Once again, Officer Winchell is
Volunteer.
volunteer or whatever, to write all these, incident action plans. Thank you. All of this. And he's been doing it now for us for quite a bit of time, and those are very valuable. Thank you.
I'm motion that the meeting be adjourned.
Mike's all done.
I'm done.
Move to adjourn.
Yeah, see everybody later.
Okay.
Everybody have a good night.